Welcome to this TONG webinar. I am really happy to be joined today by Daniel Magunje, who is joining us from Shaoxing in Zhejiang province, about 20 minutes or so, I'm told, from Hangzhou. So really exciting to have Daniel with us today. The topic today is Sino-African fashion, and within that we're going to get stuck into questions around sustainability in fashion, technology in fashion as well, all from a kind of Sino-African perspective, brought to us, like I said, by Daniel, who has a very unique take and viewpoint on all things fashion. We've just been hearing from him before we clicked broadcast of his decisions to move to Shaoxing and the reasons for that, and I hope he'll share that with everybody on the call today. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Daniel to tell us a little bit about himself, and put him on the spot slightly. Daniel, set the scene for us a little bit. Tell us about yourself. How did you get to where you are today?
Wow, thank you so much, Adam, for having me. Like, what an honor, like to be here and to be able to connect with the TONG community globally. So my name is Daniel Magunje, and I'm from Zimbabwe, but I grew up in South Africa, and then I moved to China in 2014. So I just primarily I just came to China to actually study. So so since 2017, after graduation, I've been in China, and I feel like I've really learned quite a lot. So over the years in China, I feel like I really grew in a lot of ways, and I got to learn the Chinese culture. So that's what motivated me actually to stay in China, because I felt like as if I had found a place to settle. So since graduation, I founded my company, Fei-Yu Management, which is a consultancy company that bridges the gap in the fashion supply chain. So in a nutshell, this is Daniel, and I'm very passionate about the world of fashion, passionate about China and Africa.
Excellent. I'd love to hear, Daniel, a little bit more about how you got started with Fei-Yu Management. You landed in China in the same way that I landed in China, to study the language, the culture, the people, etc. But unlike most students who arrive in China, myself included, you had a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit, and decided to kind of start your own business while you're out there, and you've never left since. Tell us a little bit more about Fei-Yu and how you got started with all of that.
All right, so ever since actually I was in high school, I would always watch CNBC, and I was still in South Africa around that time. So on CNBC, I would watch, in terms of commerce, things that are happening in Asia, the stock market. So I was this very enthusiastic high schooler, and I always pictured myself getting into business. And at the same time, I kind of I was really drawn towards the Asian market and everything that was happening around that time. So well, when I came to China, at that time, somehow I kind of I should say maybe I kind of forgot about that aspect, about that enthusiastic teenager. I kind of forgot that part. So I just furthered on and did my studies, because I actually studied accounting. So I just thought maybe one day I would become maybe a chartered accountant. Looked at all the board exams, the ACCAs, and then whilst I think it was in 2016, I got an opportunity through Zimbabwe Fashion Week. They have a young designers program. So this young designers program, they were mentoring and grooming people who are interested in fashion, but really don't have maybe experience in fashion or in sketching or anything like that. So sent in my application, and they took me in. So over the time I got to learn about about fashion, And then through the program, like I was able to, like learn from like sketching, sewing. Like it was a very short program, but like that really like somehow got my passion, like for fashion. Like it's really ignited through that program. So like I feel like my eyes somehow were kind of like opened, and I was really propelled to somehow dig deeper like within me, because like if I could like recall, like just after coming to China, like I really didn't see like any like like African presence like in the Chinese fashion industry. And the same thing as well as like in Africa, like I really didn't see much of like Chinese fashion brands like dominating the African market. So like so then in 2018, actually, yeah, in 2018, just after my graduation, like I got an opportunity, like through like the Hangzhou government to pitch my business plan, and through like the competition, like they chose my project and they put me under an incubation project. So that's how Fei-Yu Management was actually born. Yeah.
Amazing. What a great story. And set the scene a little bit for us here. I mean, you mentioned that when you kind of first got into all of this, the connections between Africa, the continent, and China from a fashion perspective were, I guess, in their infancy. Where are we now? How have things changed in the kind of short time that you've been working in this space? And who are some of the key players that we should kind of have in front of mind? Are there any brands that you would say are doing things particularly well?
All right. So I would say at that time that I started my company, like they really, I wasn't hearing, like all I would hear about China and Africa was like, from a manufacturing perspective. So like now I feel like even on a global scale, you're getting to hear a lot about, Chinese brands and in African brands. Like just like 4 years ago, even like if you could ask like people maybe in South Africa, for example, if they would know maybe any Chinese brands, they would tell you maybe they don't know any, because like all we're just used to is just maybe like like made in China, like the like merchandise. But in terms of actually like brands and fashion design, there really wasn't anyone that people knew of. And same as here in China, like if you could ask people like any like African designer, they knew, like they were not able to actually like respond to you. So I feel like now the world is actually on a global scale, actually the world is becoming more receptive to China and Africa. Like now if you see like most big probably big platforms or big fashion design platforms, you're going to see a lot of like representation like of like Chinese brands and African brands. So I feel like it's something that's happening on a global scale now, that everyone is becoming so receptive to even like brands which you don't find in the big four fashion capitals like the Milans and the Paris. So now at least it's becoming more open. So that's what I think I'm really grateful for, like for the past like few years, like in fashion.
Excellent. Turning to questions of sustainability, because I know this is a big part of what you do at Fei-Yu. China is obviously, the world's biggest supplier of raw materials for the fashion industry, and a lot of major Western brands have a long history of manufacturing there: Adidas, Nike, H&M, etc. And as a result, China kind of makes up about 70% of the fashion industry's carbon footprint. What we've seen, though, interestingly, over the last couple of years is a small, a nascent, but definitely growing section of the Chinese consumer population that places a greater emphasis on sustainability. And sustainable products have now become, like I said, a small but definitely growing subsection of consumption in the market. I wonder if you could give us a bit of a bird's eye perspective from on the ground, how you see it. How important is sustainability now in the minds of consumers in China? And I guess equally, from the kind of supply chain perspective, where you're working, how front of mind is sustainability as an issue among the brands that you're consulting with?
All right. So like now, so actually, like I think it was last year actually. the president of Kering Group, which owns Gucci and Bottega Veneta, like they were actually like in Shanghai for Shanghai Fashion Week, and he said something that really that I'll forever remember. He was like, "There's no sustainability without China." Yeah. So that statement itself, like that really like opened like, you know, my mind. And like if you're to look at it right now, actually, like in terms of sustainability, like actually the world, like somehow like we need, like in terms of like to progress and move forward, like China, I feel like change will come actually from China. Like this is like where like the, you know, the manufacturers are, the suppliers are. So yeah, China plays a very big important role in sustainability, and now we are also getting to see that as well with some of the policies that have been passed by the government in terms of trash sorting. I don't know if maybe if you've heard of it, Adam. Like now in Shanghai, for example, like now if you're to pass by like in public, like there are different bins, and you have to actually like sort out your trash. So like this is just something that's really like happening like on the it's a rapid scale now, and even now most cities are beginning to introduce this. So yeah, that really shows you that like China is not playing games, and like now in terms of even the younger generation, they now, like, you know, in terms of like they're now kind of open-minded, and they're now being educated about actually like, you know, like how like different materials can be recycled. And this also goes back to sustainability again. So like with sustainability, like in fashion, like we're talking about like I'll just call it like three P's. So we're talking about the planet, we're talking about people, and we're talking about profit. So because like profit actually, like I feel like every business, like they all want to make a profit. So like we should never ever like leave profit out of it. So so now people, like in terms of their shopping habits, like they really worry a lot about, you know, like about like their health, their well-being. And this is also transcending as well to sustainability. Like people now are really like careful, like when they go shopping, and even like in terms of like your body, like people are like taking more caution to like what they wear on top of like of their body, like in terms of like materials, what has maybe like an item like been made out of. So these are the things like really happening with like consumers nowadays. Like consumers are actually quite like, you know, like now open-minded, and they now have an eye when it comes to like their shopping.
And can you give us a kind of a bit more of a sense as to kind of where Fei-Yu and your work fits into all of this? You know, maybe some concrete examples of the kind of work that you've been doing in this space.
All right. So with Fei-Yu Management, if I'm to introduce some of our services, so like what we do is we, as I mentioned, like we bridge the gaps in the fashion supply chain. So when I talk of the fashion supply chain, I'm talking about people, I'm talking about manufacturers, I'm talking about retailers, I'm talking about like, you know, technology, like, so like just anything that bridges the gap like in the industry. So with Fei-Yu Management, part of what we do is we do skills training and development. And through skills training and development, we've partnered with organizations that include Redress Asia, where we educate designers in Africa like about manufacturing, like from a sustainable point of view, and just educating like young designers, you know, that like they should just make use of like, you know, textile waste, because as you know, like fashion is like the second biggest polluter. Second to oil. So like right now we're working and educating designers like on like, you know, like producing like in sustainable ways. And also we are also like founding partners to the Circular Fashion Summit. So the Circular Fashion Summit is like a collective action summit that you know works with the fashion community like globally to in the work of like transitioning like the fashion industry from a linear to a circular fashion industry. So we work with young designers, we work with brands, and just giving them enough tools to actually like you know transition to a circular way of circular business model. Yeah.
Fascinating. And who would you say are some of the kind of I guess, the leaders in this space? Are there any brands you'd like to highlight that are taking this seriously and are actually kind of changing the way that they operate as businesses?
Totally. So if you have to look at like luxury brands like Gucci, for example, they've just recently launched their secular collection, where they like they use textile waste, and then they produce that and actually sell it out to people. And you're also getting to see this a lot from even younger brands like Magunje, like from Africa, like just like designers, being able to actually use different materials which is sustainable. And even Nike, for example, they're using plastic bottles from the ocean to make sneakers. I mean, how cool is that? Yeah.
And what can what can Chinese brands or the companies that you're working with, what can they learn from their counterparts in sub-Saharan Africa? What are some of the brands and organizations in those countries, in African nations, doing that we can extrapolate onto a more global level? I believe South African Fashion Week has been kind of held up as an example or a leader in kind of ethical fashion, particularly when juxtaposed against the big four fashion weeks around the world. And I just wondered, what lessons can Chinese companies in particular take from what some of their African counterparts are doing?
Wow. So if I'm to look at Africa, actually, you growing up as an African person, I feel like sustainability is just something that's linked to us. Growing up, for example, maybe you'd have maybe pants and then maybe they're torn. You wouldn't throw them away. So through that, you could sew or just put some patch to just fix what you have. So I feel that mindset somehow that we grew up as Africans, that you don't throw clothing. Clothing is something that's treasured, and it's something that can be passed from one person to the next. So these are the trends that you're now seeing in the first world nations now, as the secular business models. But for us, it's something that we grew up doing, and something that we grew up seeing our parents do, going to fix actually your shoes. Let's suppose, for example, you've got slops, and then maybe your slops, something happens to your slops, you just take them to someone who would actually just fix your slops for you. So I feel that itself, that mindset is something that was passed on to us. And now I feel even the world at large, not only maybe Chinese designers, it's something that the whole globe, I think, should learn from Africa, that with clothing, with textile, it's something you can always think of creative ways of fixing what you already have. So instead of producing afresh, why not just use what's already there, what's in the landfills, what's in people's closets that people don't need anymore, and actually bring that in and sell it out. So you don't really need to now to to manufacture afresh, which causes pollution. So I feel from Africa, these would be the lessons that the whole world would need to learn.
That's interesting. So that's very much from the kind of consumer perspective. And I wonder, now that you've been in China for 6, almost 7 years, how have you seen kind of consumer attitudes change? We've spoken quite a lot about what brands are trying to do, and you could argue that that's just a response to consumer demands. But what's your sense of Chinese consumer demand for sustainability, and what's driving that demand, if there is any?
Well, in terms of sustainability, it's something that's a hot topic now in China. You're getting to see even fast fashion companies now introducing recycled maybe merchandise. And so it's something that people are getting to learn now. And I would say especially with the Gen Z generation, they really woke to sustainability. And I feel like over the next coming years, it's something that's going to be like more people like will be like will be on the lookout, and it will be like a top priority for most people. Yeah.
I want to pivot slightly and talk a bit about technology. You mentioned in passing before. Obviously, this year has been a bit of a roller coaster, to say the least, for a lot of brands. And one of the responses we've seen from retailers and luxury brands in China in particular has been the adoption of new technology, right? These are often trends that have been going on for a few years now, and the technologies that we've seen become popular are not necessarily new, but what is new is the speed of adoption, right? And this kind of mass rollout of technologies such as live streaming or augmented reality or virtual reality, and crucially the kind of connecting together of these different technologies in this kind of online to offline space. What's your take on technology in fashion? Is this, and particularly, I guess, from the perspective of sustainability as well, how do these kind of different issues kind of intersect with each other? Are there any downsides to the rollout of technology in the way that we've seen over the last few months in particular?
Yeah, totally. Like now that you've mentioned of like tech, like and just going back to like also like your previous question. So like now, like with Alibaba, for example, like they have like their own, like a secondhand marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
So like in terms of tech, I feel like there's really like now more options, like in terms of, like that are driving towards sustainability. And with like live streaming, it's something that's now huge in China. You can't ignore live streaming, and even like now luxury brands, which are really like traditional and usually don't go with what's trending because of maybe like the fear of diluting their brands. So now we're getting to see even like Louis Vuittons, like the Burberry's actually having like live streaming shows, which actually shows that like that's really huge in China. And in terms of tech such as like virtual reality, so like with the Circular Fashion Summit, we hosted the first ever virtual reality fashion summit. So like in fashion, like there's always been like a very huge discourse about how we talk about sustainability, but yet I mean like during different fashion weeks globally, probably be in Paris or in Milan, where like editors have to like fly into the city from one city to the next. So like people were like really having this discourse that we're always sitting down at these forums and we talk about sustainability, and yet we have luxury brands flying in editors like from one city to the next city, and that causes like a lot of that like has an impact in terms of like carbon emissions. So like one thing that I loved about this year hasn't been like the best year, but one thing that I've really that I can really appreciate about this year is like disruption. So with the Circular Fashion Summit, we hosted the first ever VR fashion summit. So with virtual reality, we were able to like unite like the whole fashion community globally, and we didn't have to meet, but actually like you just like wear like the VR headsets, and then people had access to the talks that were happening, and people got to meet like designers, because we have the Impact Design Hub, which chooses like 10 designers globally, and we promote them like throughout like the whole year and also at the summit. So like what's fascinating about it is that we had like this like booths like a trade show kind of like booths like but in virtual reality. So people would actually come to the summit and they would have like time to actually go to the different designers and get to speak with the designers, and some people were even like inquiring like on different orders. So that just goes to show you that like now, like because of tech, like it's only like making like things easier, like on this transition towards like a sustainable and secular fashion industry. So I'm really like optimistic about the future of fashion with the help of technology. And also another tech support that we have at the Circular Fashion Summit is that we help brands to be able to track to be able to track out like their like supply to track out and to also publicize like their supply chain to consumers, because consumers they are now really interested to know who is making our clothes. So with like the blockchain facilities that we have at Circular Fashion Summit, with the help of LabLaco, we are able to check out different like items like using blockchain. So like each item of clothing will have its own like QR code, so that with blockchain you can't really interfere with that. So that gives like also like a room for the brands that we work with to be able to if they want to perhaps have maybe a second hand business model, they could do that, and people won't be afraid of buying fakes, because now people could bring in their items, and they'll be able to actually trace out that this item is original. So these are some of the things that you can look at from a fashion perspective. So it's really, really exciting where things are going.
Absolutely, your passion and enthusiasm is infectious. You're right. It's a very exciting space, and blockchain and other technologies that kind of enable consumers and brands to kind of track the provenance of where their products, where the material, where the has come from in the supply chain, I think is a great development and a great example of like you said, this kind of intersection of technology and sustainability together. I guess one of the slightly more basic or crude ways that technology has changed the fashion industry over the years has been making things more global, right? It's allowing Chinese consumers to purchase products from all around the world, and certainly a lot of British European brands have been the beneficiary of that. Opening up stores on all manner of different e-commerce platforms in China and selling cross-border. I wonder if you could give us a sense of what that space looks like for African brands. How are retail brands, fashion brands from African countries selling into China? Is there much trade going on, in that perspective? And also vice versa as well. There must now be Chinese brands that are making inroads into African markets as well. Like I said, this is one of the slightly more crude ways that technology is applied, but I wondered, there's still so much, potential there, and I wondered whether you might shine a bit of a light on that.
Totally. And one thing that I really really appreciate about about this digital world is now people, you can be anywhere and you can be able to sell your products. So now what we're getting to see with especially this year with COVID, we're getting to see a lot of designers transitioning from a wholesale business model, because most designers they only do wholesale, and then and they just leave everything to the distributors and the retailers. But now most designers are taking things into their own hands in order to control inventory that they manufacture. And so one thing that most designers are now doing is they now have their own online stores, which allow for people globally or anywhere to actually shop directly from them without having to go through any retailer. And another really exciting another exciting model in terms of really here in China is a lot of these concept stores that are opening. And with most of these concept stores that are opening, you find really niche brands that you normally don't find at the big departmental stores. So yeah, that's something that's really interesting about China. Be it in Chengdu, for example, you get to find now there are a lot of really small independent concept stores, which are now getting to source things maybe from Africa, from maybe the UK, from France. So yeah, it's really an interesting space now for designers that they have an opportunity to decide what they want, if they want to rather sell directly, or they would rather want to go through distributive agencies, or just going through the concept stores. Yeah.
And who are some of the who are some of the brands or the designers in this kind of Sino-African space that we should be keeping an eye on over the next few years?
Oh, totally. So like now there's like a big rise of like amazing like African designers, same as Chinese designers. So if you're to look at like for example, the LVMH prize, like if you're to look at 2 years ago, it was like it was won like by like an African designer, and that was like the first ever time that the LVMH prize has been won by by a designer from Africa. And so I would say like Daniel Magunje is one designer like you need to watch out for, and Angel Chen here in China, Fix Studios in China, and Rich Mnisi, Orange Culture from Nigeria, and you've got Spencer Badu, who is in Canada but is also of African descent, and also looking at Robert Woon. Yeah, I think Robert Woon is one designer actually that you should really watch out for. Like he's actually based in the UK, but he's also has presence in Hong Kong. So yeah, now there's a big number of designers to really watch out for, like in this space.
Fascinating. What a space to be working in. I'm very jealous of you.
People are more open-minded, so it's really exciting that people are now, the same way people would want to buy a Nike, people are now interested to actually buy maybe an Angel Chen sneaker. So it's exciting times, that we're living in right now. People like, can be able to like, buy anything from anywhere and from any designer. So yeah, it's really interesting.
Absolutely. I've got one final question for you, Daniel, before we're going to open up to some questions from our audience. I don't want to monopolize you too much. And it's a very broad one and a bit of a mean question, but you could probably have seen it coming, which is, what are your predictions for the future? Where do you see this sector going? What would you, what should we kind of keep in the back of our minds?
All right. So in terms of sustainability, that's going to be like the top priority, like now for brands. Like most brands now, even the fast fashion brands, like now they are now really aware of like, their impact towards the environment. And now most like fast fashion brands, like, are introducing like, sustainable products. So I feel like even like in the next coming years, it's going to be like a really big trend. And that's also going to affect like manufacturers in terms of textiles and production. So that's one thing to that I really can bet on, that I see in the future. And the second thing would be the rise of independent Chinese and African designers. Like now, I believe, like now with the rise like of the Sino-African designers on different like big platforms. So you're gonna be able now to like, if you like maybe in any city, perhaps maybe you'll be able to find a designer like from Africa or a designer from China. So I feel like there's gonna be a big rise in terms of like in terms of designers who are coming from maybe countries which are not really, like the top fashion capitals of the world. So I think and the third one would be like tech. Everything is going to be like digital because of COVID. Of course, now like that we have been introduced to like the Zooms, virtual reality, live streaming. So like now there's going to be a big balance between like physical and digital. And these two are going to, work hand in hand together. So I feel like these three things are going to be like, that's my prediction, like for the future.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Daniel. I'm going to open up to some questions from our audience. I can see a few coming in here. First question here. Are there any differences between younger consumers and older consumers in their purchasing behaviors? Particularly when it comes to their perceptions of sustainability and sustainable brands in China, from your perspective?
Wow, totally. So if you to look at like the younger generation in China, like they've got like access to like the Bilibilis, the Douyin, which is like TikTok. Mm-hmm. So like in terms of in terms of like coverage like of what's happening, I feel the young consumers, like they're really like aware of like, in terms of like sustainability, like they're really aware, like, of what's happening, like through like, through like the different channels which they have available. So I feel like that itself, like also transcends to like their shopping habits. Like, they're now aware of such trends. So like even like their shopping habits will also like be aligned to shopping like more shopping sustainably. And for the older generation, I guess they're gonna get to learn a lot maybe from also the younger generation. So perhaps maybe like in maybe a household where you've got like maybe parents like in their late let's say just say late 40s. So like I feel like with the young generation, they're going to be able to educate their parents like on the latest trends, like in fashion and in other ways. Yeah.
Thank you. We've got another couple of questions coming in here. You mentioned that you moved city recently. This is something we discussed just before the call as well, right? So from Hangzhou to Shaoxing. Why? Well, what was the reason for that? Was this a professional move? And where do you see your new home, Shaoxing, kind of fitting into this journey around sustainability?
All right. So like with Fei-Yu Management, like we look at fashion like from a whole angle. So like manufacturers, retailers, designers. So I felt like my move to Shaoxing would be quite beneficial because Shaoxing has a textile city in a sub-district called Kerchao, where I'm currently based at the moment. So currently I'm working with textile manufacturers like who have the passion, to manufacture sustainably. So I feel like it's really a great place for me currently to learn more actually about textiles, as well as being able to consult the different brands, the different manufacturers. I mean, which are really keen to know ways they can minimize their environmental footprint. So I feel like for me right now it's like the best place to be. Yeah, currently. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'm very jealous of you being out there. It's been a while since we've made it out to China, a year now because of coronavirus, but I'm sure you must be having a great time in comparative freedom compared with things here. Oh gosh, we've got lots of questions coming in. You've sparked quite a conversation, Daniel. So as Shanghai Fashion Week comes to an end, what are some of the trends that we should be keeping an eye on for spring/summer 21?
Wow, interesting. Speaks about 21. Actually, like yesterday, I went to a showroom to visit one of my favorite designers, and one thing that I loved about their collection, actually, like maybe you can look them up. It's called Fix Studios. So what I loved about it is like designers, like even young designers, like they're now they're now manufacturing, like they're now manufacturing like sustainably. Like I was so amazed to see like most of their products that have been made like 100% out of like recycled waste, like bottles, for example. So like that's something that you should look out for, like in terms like in terms of like Shanghai Fashion Week. And another trend as well that I've picked up with designers, like most designers are now really like taking, because like in Shanghai we've got Labelhood, and there is like the Shanghai Fashion Week runway, which happens like in Xintiandi. So like now you're going to see a lot of designers, like in terms of storytelling, like they're doing it in amazing ways, in ways that are really like unorthodox. So you've got designers like really staging like independent shows and presentations. So yeah, it's really, really interesting to see, designers coming up with new concepts of production and as well as storytelling in terms of their collection. So that's something that I was really amazed in Shanghai Fashion Week. Yeah.
Excellent. This is quite a nice one. I like this one. So are we starting to see Chinese design students looking to Africa and African designers for inspiration, not just as an audience, but also, for, like I said, for inspiration?
Totally. So actually one of our partnerships is with Shanghai Dongguan University, which is one of the leading research, design and textile like institution like here in China. So like one really interesting thing about the university is that like now they have like Sino-Africa fashion studies. So like you're getting to see a lot of like young designers, like referencing, like African culture, and also having an interest in African design. So that's one thing that really stood out for us when we partnered with them. Like, that just like their interest, like from a very like, early stage to notice like Africa from, a cultural perspective and a design perspective. So that's something that's really interesting, like from here in China. That's really a good question, by the way. Yeah.
Well, it's a good question, right? No, fascinating. What an interesting course. Do you know how many people, what does that look like? How many people take that course?
So like they don't really have, it's not really a course as such. So it's like a little if I should say, like more of like a faculty, if I should say.
Okay.
Like they're just really into the studies like of maybe like African design, African culture. So it's not really a major yet. Probably soon, maybe.
Sure.
Might be a course soon, perhaps. But it's like a faculty where people just go to, and there are a lot of interesting symposiums like between Africa and China. And right now we are also like now facilitating different workshops with them. So we're really excited about our partnership with them.
Interesting. Well, I was about to ask what some of the, what does the output look like? So you've got these symposiums and kind of cultural exchanges and what have you. And I suppose at some point there'll be collections of products and what have you that are designed on this basis. So very exciting. We look forward to seeing how that develops. One final question for you, Daniel, before we let you get off and enjoy your evening. And it's again quite a nice question, quite broad. What does sustainability mean to you? I think it's quite an interesting question because it's a very broad range of things, right? It could be being carbon neutral, or it could be something around kind of internal cultures. It could be not producing any waste. But what does it mean to you?
Wow. Personally, sustainability to me, it means the planet. The planet. Yeah, I feel like all of us, like we all can play a big role towards, preserving like our planet and the environment. So for me, I feel like it's my duty, and it serves for me as like more of like self-conscious. It's more of like a self-conscious, if I should say, maybe decision. Like for me, to be conscious, about like what I do, like is what I'm doing, having a positive impact like on the environment, is having a positive impact on people. So this really helps me, like when I'm mindful about the planet, it really helps me to know how to handle people, how to handle the planet, and from a business perspective also how to assist and help young designers to grow and create jobs. So I feel like for me it's kind of like a self-conscious idea. Yeah, it's really self-conscious, just being self-conscious of my environment. So
Sure.
For me that's sustainability to me. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Daniel. I think that's a wonderful answer to end today's session on. I think I speak for everybody who's tuning in, whether it be live or watching this as a recording afterwards, in saying that was a really fascinating discussion, and we really thank you for taking part today. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me, and everyone who joined in. It's really an honor to share my passion. Like I love fashion, I love sustainability, I love young designers. So like I'm really grateful to TONG for having me in this webinar. Thank you so much.
Not at all. Like you said, your as I said before, your passion and enthusiasm really shines through and is very infectious. So how can people get in contact with you, Daniel, if they want to hear more?
Oh, sure. So people could email me at Daniel at Fei-Yu, Fei-Yu, Fei-Yu-Management.com, or you could follow me on Instagram maybe at that _kid underscore Danny K, or just LinkedIn at Daniel Magunje. So those are the platforms that people could reach out to me.
Excellent. All that remains to be said is once again, thank you so much, Daniel, for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And we shall see you next time.